All right, hello everyone. This is what did I call this thing? Founder Chat, I think, is what I've named it. It used to be called, I think, Startup Chat or something, but that exists elsewhere already. So let's kick things off. So this is a thing that I tried a couple of times last year. I think it was last May, so almost a year ago. I did two of these things, so they were a lot of fun. We're just like really laid back, really informal. Chance to ask some questions, talk to, there's the chat area so you can chat with other founders, and we can kind of just talk shop for a while. So I don't know how long this will take. I'm here as long as, however. There's a decent number of questions here. I will try to answer as many of them as it makes sense to, or ones that seem most applicable to lots of people. So, yeah. So if you are not familiar with me or Baremetrics, my name is Josh Pigford, and Baremetrics is a company that I founded back in October 2013. So we've been around about a year and a half. It was a one-man show for 6 months or so. And then we're actually now a team of 5 full-time folks. So, yeah, Baremetrics is an analytics platform built on top of Stripe. So plug up your Stripe account, and we'll give you things like MRR, lifetime value, churn, and lots of other things. So my plan here is there's this questions area in the middle here, and I'm just gonna start at the top. The most highly voted ones. We'll kind of work our way down, and then just start knocking them out, and vote on some as you would like, and then add some of your own questions as well. So this first question here is from Mike. It says, can you be a good parent and a startup founder? Sure. So I'm a dad, have one young child, and then we're actually on the tail end of adopting 2 kids. So I will be a dad of 3, hopefully in the next month or so. We'll finish up our adoption process. So do I think you can be a good parent? I mean, I hope so. Those things are not, to me, mutually exclusive. It all comes down to how you frame, or like what your focus is. So it's an issue of prioritization, right? So if my startup is my priority to the detriment of everything else in life, then arguably I'm going to be a pretty bad parent. But I still in the same way that you can be a good employee at a company, and still be a good parent? Yeah, absolutely. It's putting boundaries on things. If you don't put boundaries on the startup, if the startup is all consuming, then sure, you're going to be a bad, not only parent, but spouse as well. Or even if you're not, say, married or kids or anything, like you'll just be a bad friend. And it's just a matter of prioritizing that stuff as much as possible, or at least in a way that you sort of achieves your end goal. Like for me, my startup, Baremetrics, is not the end goal for me. Like at the end of the day, I don't want for someone to have said, man, he was a really great founder, but he was a pretty crappy dad. Like at that point I have failed, right? So that's my answer to that. So let's see here. More quality issues. We're going to lower the quality a bit more. Ooh. Okay. Let's see. Let's hop on this next one here. All right. This is from Adam. So looking back, what things would you have spent more time on, and what things would you have spent less time on when starting or growing a business? So I've started a bunch of businesses over the past decade, and I mean, all of them have, I was going to say they all have different things that I wish I would have spent more or less time on, but in reality, I think it's kind of similar. So I think I wish I would have spent more time starting or growing. I mean, more time on growing the business early on and being really dogmatic about throwing stuff to the sides that doesn't matter at that stage. Like it's easy to get caught up in the it's easy to get caught up with like things that don't matter. So things like, hey, this should scale to hundreds of thousands of users. When in reality, like that doesn't matter when you have 0 users, right? And I mean, I wasn't that. I never tried to do that kind of stuff, but it was still like it was easy to get caught up in trying to perfect the product before it launches. And I think that like that is the thing that you have to fight so hard against is trying to build like the quote unquote perfect product when you like don't even have customers yet. So like that's my advice there is to spend more time getting something that people will pay for, something valuable before you say that like it's not ready to launch yet. Like you need to get to something launchable as quickly as possible, and something launchable is something that people are willing to pay for. So that's my answer there. Next question. So this is from Diane. What was Baremetrics' breakdown of time and energy spent on product definition versus design versus development versus marketing in the pre-launch days? And how did that change upon initial launch and as the product matures? That was a beefy question there. So, what was the breakdown of time? I mean, pre-launch, like with Baremetrics, I spent about 8 days of my time building the first version. So I mean, I don't know if there was any sort of breakdown of time and energy other than to get it done. That was the thing for me is just get the thing done as quickly as possible, something out the door as quick as possible. Now, after that, so how did that change after the launch and as the product has matured? So now, I mean, I hope that I don't know about equal time on all those things. Certain things take more time. So I could probably define a feature, for instance, in an afternoon. I mean, that's a sort of really basic way to look at it. I mean, a lot of it's talking to customers over the course of days or weeks. But I mean, as far as just like writing out a project brief for some feature, that doesn't take much time. And then we'll get the design phase going. Like typically that might take, depending on the complexity, anywhere from a day to a few weeks. But then past that, like development takes exponentially more time. And that's sort of where our bottleneck is right now is like the development phase has a hard time keeping up with how fast we're able to push out the design side of things. So we're hiring. So FYI, if you're a back-end engineer, baremetrics.com/jobs, I would love to hire you. So yeah, that's that answer. So from Tyler here, what features would most people think were completely essential to a product that were not there in the first version of Baremetrics? So there's a ton of stuff that was not in the first version of Baremetrics. I mean, like its initial version was a very simple static. I say static. I mean, a one-page dashboard of some single numbers, basically. You couldn't dig into all this, different historical data or compare plans really, or I think like those are kind of things that people might, I could have spent a lot more time trying to make that happen initially, but I just had no idea how anybody was going to use the product. So I think those kind of features are just anything that you're like, I bet somebody really wants this, but you don't know why, or it doesn't inherently add a lot of value. I would try to not include that initially. Next. This is from Damien about hiring. So how do you find the right culture fit for a remote employee over a Skype or video chat call? It's a great question. For us, I don't know. I've been working remotely for 10 years. So I think I'm a decent judge of somebody's ability to to kind of like figuring out if they're a culture fit is I don't know. I think I'm a decent judge of that. Not just in a phone call, but I mean, I think like a video phone call plus like their initial job application, for instance, there's a series of questions there that aren't so much about getting the right or wrong answer, but it's all to see like surface how people communicate. So are they really good at communicating with just text? Are they too, are their answers too short? Like, well, that leaves a lot of room for people to misinterpret what you're saying. Or if they're incredibly verbose in like the simplest question, they write 12 paragraphs. That's a problem too, because then nobody has time, especially when you're having to text ends up being the primary mode of communication on a team. If somebody's too verbose, then nobody will read what they're saying because it's just, you don't have time to keep up with all of that. So I think like finding the right culture fit is a mixture of having a couple of video phone calls just to make sure that they can have a conversation, which you'd be surprised is not always the case. The written portion of it, so just making sure that they can answer basic questions and kind of explain themselves well via text as the medium. And then for us, it's also we typically do like a test project if it's a design or development job, because that gives us a chance to see how they work on their own when just without having somebody looking over their shoulder. So having them do a test project, where they like you give them the project brief and then say, hey, go do this. Here's the budget, whether that's time or money. I'd love to see what you get done. So sometimes people get really caught up in the mechanics of that and they try to like over define the problem, and instead of just like going and getting it done, and then they're handheld a lot. So that's typically not a good fit for us. Other people, they'll go do it, come back, it's done. Yay, that was easy. And that's the kind of people who are really self-motivated and don't have to have a ton of direction. Those people tend to be a good culture fit for us. Let's see. I'm going to skip like really geeky, techie questions for now. We'll come back later if we need to. So this next question here from Jason. So it says, I have a bunch of little prototypes around the business I want to start a SaaS in. How do you decide what to start with, what to cut, and what to do later? So this all comes down to value. And I've mentioned this even in a couple of answers already. It all comes down to value and figuring out what's the shortest path to providing value. So value, and when I say value, I mean literally value that people are willing to pay for. If somebody's not willing to pay for it, then it's not valuable. Maybe not ever. It's not worth adding if people won't give you money for it. So how do you decide what to start with? I mean, a lot of that comes down to you just knowing the industry, but it's less, there's not so much pressure there to know the industry as much as like you just need to get something out there and see what the reaction is. So put something out there as quick as absolutely humanly possible, see what the reaction is. If nobody will give you any money for it, then you haven't solved the problem and you need to either go back to the drawing board completely, or maybe it's not quite valuable enough for people to pay for. So you need to add some more onto it. But the biggest thing is getting it out in the open as soon as possible. So I think this is Damien. Damien asked the same question here. Well, another culture question here. So Damien's question about culture. How do you build a great company culture while building a business? And he says, you don't always have money to offer what you would like. So good salaries, bunch of benefits, like new laptops, free Kindle, all this, like just random benefits. So how do you build a great company culture while building a business? I think a lot of it comes down, company culture, I think, is rooted in the founder. So, and a lot of that comes down to, I think, personality. So forcing a company culture, if you ever say, here's what our company culture is going to be. If it's not that already, it won't be what you're just like definitively writing it down on paper does not make you have a certain company culture. It's like the sum of all the tiny little interactions and decisions over the, especially in the early days of the company. So I think building a great company culture comes down to like being a great human being. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe that's too simple, but I think that I think you can overthink the company culture side of things instead of it just being sort of this natural byproduct. I mean, you can kind of be more intentional with the way that you do things, but I think it really comes down to just like doing right by your employees, and like your specific company culture ultimately is the sum of everybody that works there. And so it will always kind of change a little bit, right? The kind of culture you have when you're a two-person team, like a couple of co-founders getting started, is not the same as when you have, say, 200 people. There's too many factors there, and that's okay. Just understanding, like, when you try to force those things, I think they come back to bite you, and you end up coming across as really corporate instead of it being this natural outflowing of, people being around each other. Next question here. All right. This question by, I'm probably going to say your name wrong here, but I'm going to try it. Kaya sounds probably more right. If it's not, sorry. Okay. So by stalking your public analytics, which is at demo.baremetrics.com, I realize that you've been struggling with growth versus churn in the past few months. What tactics have proven to be effective, and how do you see that working as you move forward? So good observation. So especially last month, March was kind of gnarly for us on the revenue churn side of things, which ultimately impacted growth. So I think like we had some problems so for us, revenue churn is the big metric that we care about. I care less about user churn because it doesn't have a direct effect on our business. At least revenue is like what I ultimately care about at this stage. So when we churn revenue, that makes me unhappy. So I think like what has proven to be effective there. So we reduced revenue churn. I think maybe 6 weeks ago it was 12% or something, which is bad. I mean, we're talking 12% monthly churn, not annual churn. And now it's at, I think, around 4 or 5% or something like that. So we reduced it quite a bit. And a lot of that came down to we put a bunch of stuff in place really to just try to talk to customers more and spend more time making sure that they understand Baremetrics and how to get the most value possible out of it. And we also shipped some larger features that I think people needed to get more insights into their data. So it was kind of a combination of a bunch of stuff that all came together. So that's one of those things like we have 300, actually we have close to 400 customers now. So it doesn't take, if you have like 10,000 customers or hundreds of thousands of customers, your churn becomes pretty stable in the sense that it's not all over the place, especially in 1 month. For us at our size, it can still fluctuate a good bit, and I kind of expect that. And I'm okay with that to some degree. 12% is way too high. 4, 5, 6%. Still, I want that to be lower. I'd love that to be like for our target market, like 2% would be great. But I'm less concerned about it now than I was, 1 or 2 months ago. All right. I have no idea what your screen name here rep is like. Maybe I'm probably putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, but we'll see here. Okay, so your question here is one. Let's say there's 2 questions here, I guess. 1, how do you plan and strategize? What process do you follow? What frameworks do you use? And I'm going to include this second part as also part of it. How do you execute quarterly goals, monthly, weekly, daily, and what process do you follow? What frameworks do you use? So how do we make anything happen that's the question there. So we've started, it's been pretty like Wild West for a while. But Paul, I think that's his name. I hope that's his name. At Intercom, put a blog post up. I don't know, a couple months ago about their product development process at Intercom, and it was golden, so good. And it would talk through like how they write up a project brief that answers all these questions, and then they have this process in Trello for just like dividing the project up, and it's kind of we've adopted that. So a lot of it comes down to basically taking any feature or improvement and breaking it down into the smallest shippable thing that you possibly can. So the idea is to and smallest shippable thing that adds some value. So that lets you iterate pretty fast, even if it means you're shipping like one part of a larger feature instead of waiting to ship the one larger feature. So that's our basic mindset there. Let's see next question from Rob Sutter. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about customers? Most surprising thing is how little customers actually know about metrics. I mean, almost daily conversation I have is people saying, okay, there's my churn, but what do I do with it? I don't know what that even means. Like, what's my lifetime value mean? Who cares about calculating it? I just don't know what do I do with it? So that's the most surprising thing. I had no idea people knew so little, which is fine. But it makes the problem the solution that we have to those problems changes because of those, the things that they do or don't know about metrics. So that's been kind of surprising. Let's see, next one do we want to tackle here? I'm going to take a sip of coffee out of my Baremetrics coffee mug. I think we might have these as a giveaway at some point. It was a prop for a thing that you'll see in the next month or two. But, yeah, Baremetrics coffee mug. Coffee tastes better in it, no less. Yes, who had posted that? Jason Thill. Thank you for posting that Intercom blog post in the comments over there. Fantastic. Okay. Let me see if this next question here. Ryan asks, have we hit? Man, I'm from Alabama. Man, I'm so Southern. I apologize. Have we hit peak beard? No. No. It's going to get much larger. I'm working on the stash specifically to get it really bushy. The size of my beard has a direct correlation to the success of Baremetrics. So there's that. There's multiple questions about beards here. Good grief, people. Is that all I am to you, is a big bushy beard? I don't know what that question is. Okay, so Javier here asks, how did you get started in web development? And he mentions me having worked at GigaOM for a little while and now creating my own products. What's the missing piece there? Where was the transition? So, little bit of a backstory here. So I've been making stuff for the web for, maybe 15 years. As a high school kid, we're talking like GeoCities and AngelFire back in the 90s. Like that's I go that far back. And so I started making stuff for the web a long time ago. And I was building products. I started building products that themselves made money, probably as early as 2001, 2002. So that was college, like early college. And the big thing then was ad revenue. You could make a lot of money. As a college kid, I was making like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month off ad revenue on arcade sites. Like that's how it was easy then. And that's where I really got my start. Javier mentions GigaOM. So I had a site called the Apple Blog that I started in college, which is, a blog about Apple, surprisingly. And I built up a little staff around it. We were the self-contained blog. And then GigaOM acquired it in 2007, I think. So then I stayed on board at GigaOm for a couple of years to continue building that out. So I was creating products long before GigaOm, and I don't know that there was ever really a transition. I've always approached the web from sort of a product standpoint. I mean, I've done a bunch of design and development consulting over the years, but even then it was like helping. The type of design development I would do was helping people build their products. So I mean, it was always very product focused. And so I don't know that there was ever a transition. It was just, that's just how my brain thinks. Like I'm an entrepreneur by, like that's part of my personality. I was the kid that had little businesses, cutting people's grass or like setting up the lemonade stand. Like that was me, as long as I can remember. So so for me, there wasn't ever a transition. That was just like, it's just part of my guts, my innards. So, Jason has a question here. To the extent possible, can you speak to the Baremetrics tech stack and how you made some of the tough decisions you were faced with? So our tech stack, right now, it's very different than it was even a year ago. So it started off as a super vanilla Rails app, like hosted on Heroku, so really basic. And then as we've gotten larger and had to deal with, and Postgres is our main database. And as we've gotten larger and are handling tens of millions of rows of data at any given time, like you have scaling problems that the initial tech stack won't handle. So at this point, we've started breaking it out into microservices instead of this like one monolithic app, and that's helped a bunch. And moving off Heroku, we moved off Heroku a month and a half or so ago, and how we've made some of the tough decisions. So the tough decisions were that I don't like fixing things before they're broken. The key is to like find the time right before things break to say that looks like it's about to break, let's fix it. But I think preemptively trying to solve every scaling problem under the sun is a really bad idea and will waste a massive amount of time because you'll make assumptions and you will make the wrong assumptions. So right now, like the tough decisions come in the sense where it's like, okay, we've been trucking along, like server's doing great. We've been working on a bunch of features, and then holy crap, we just got a bunch of really large customers who are putting a big strain on the system, which is great to have those large customers. But now we're having to put the feature set on hold because we have a small team and focus on fixing these scaling problems. And those could end up taking weeks sometimes if they're big enough. So those aren't necessarily tough decisions. They're just like, man, those decisions suck. I hate making those decisions, but it's sort of, they decide themselves. I mean, it's either the product stays up and runs and everybody's happy, or it goes down and we keep building the feature, but nobody can use it because the site's down, right? So, yeah. Let's see. Chris from Tweet Machine. That's a long last name, from Tweet Machine. Before you had an office, did you think that you really needed to rent a quiet space somewhere for extended periods of concentration, and how much of a challenge was this for you? So I don't have an office now. I'm in my house right now, so I have a home office. I've worked from home for 10 years, and so it has become, so now that I have, my wife works from home. She actually does some stuff for us here at Baremetrics, but she also homeschools our kid, and so like there's a lot of stuff going on at our house. And I think the pre-kid, it was much easier to work from home. It is increasingly harder to do that, and I'm actually looking at getting some office space here, so separate from our house, just because it is harder and harder to concentrate. So right now it is a challenge, but it's like we try to have a decent set of boundaries so that it's not like the kids are about coming in all the time and wanting to play. Like dad's at work and he's working. So, but yeah. I'm planning on getting an office space, hopefully in the next couple months here. I'm gonna answer Alan Branch's question here because I like him. How fake is your beard? It's not fake at all, bro. Back off. All right. Ryan asks, build it versus buy it. Or is this a beard question? Are we talking build or buy what, Ryan? I'm gonna assume that you're saying, oh, you're probably asking, should you build some software or just buy it? So I don't know if that's what you're asking, but that's what I'm answering here. So let's flesh out the question there. Should you, say for instance, you wanted some analytics for your recurring revenue? Should you build your own tool internally or pay someone else, say Baremetrics, to just do it for you? I mean, I'm obviously biased in that example there, but oh, you're telling me no, it's not about my beard. Okay, sorry. So I think it is a very large mistake to decide that let's build some internal software when there's something else that will get us, even if it's just like 80 or 90% of the way there. I think that is such a bad mistake. Not because that benefits me, it does, but at the same time, like, what do you gain by having a team of developers spend weeks or months trying to save you an $80 a month fee? If you haven't gained anything, right? Like you've lost stuff because you've wasted all sorts of time building some software just to save a little bit of money. Like, let's take the $80 a month, the $79 a month example. Let's make it easy. Say you have $100 a month software, and even if you built that thing internally, and over a year you saved $1,200. Congratulations. You also wasted probably $10,000 in your developer's time trying to build the thing internally. Like, that's such a bad decision on I'm happy to pay. We pay thousands of dollars a month in others to use other people's software, whether that's like A/B testing or conversion tracking or like Ustream here to stream videos. Like, no, it doesn't make. You wouldn't build your own video streaming service just so that you could avoid paying $100 a month. Such an awful idea. If you were faced with that decision, I can't even think of a reason that you would want to build your own internal thing. If it's not your core product, you are much better off spending that time making your product better to make more money, because especially if you're a SaaS business, you then get that money, for potentially ever, right? Somebody stays a subscriber for a long time, then you just got massive amounts of money by focusing on building a better product instead of trying to save a few bucks. Good grief. I'm stepping off my soapbox. That wasn't at you, Ryan. I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad at, I hear people make that decision all the time and it drives me crazy. All right. I need another sip of coffee. Okay. Nathan just asked here, any ideas for cracking a crowded market? How can I get product market fit quickly? I don't know if you get it quickly. I mean, the cracking a crowded market for me. So I'm going to talk a little bit here about my view on competition. So in general, I don't give a rip about competition. So you could, and there have been lots of competitors that have popped up over the past year or so since launching Baremetrics. Tons, and many of them copycats, almost direct copycats. So the market is becoming crowded. And I think it is harder to get into a crowded market, but at the same time, the key to getting into a crowded market is to ignore what the competition is doing. And the reason for that is that you are you have a different mindset and will solve problems in a different way than somebody else. So theoretically, you've got some sort of unique thing that you bring to the table. And so that means you will solve the problem in a different way. Now, maybe it's not the better way, maybe it is, but the key is to solve that problem like in your specific way and not try to say, I'm going to solve it the way that the competitor in the crowded market solved it, but make it look nicer. Like you're not solving the problem better. So build the thing that build the solution that you believe is the right solution, find the customers for that, and then just keep going down that path of solving the problem in the best way that you know how for your customers, because you will have a slightly different solution than your competitor does. And you need to grasp onto that different perspective with everything that you've got. So that's that one. Let's see. Ooh, I was gonna try out this. There's a poll feature here. I should have probably posted these beforehand. All right, let's put this poll right there. What's answer one? No. Boom. I just added a poll under polls there. Should have added these a long time ago. I'm gonna add another one too while we're at it. And if you've got other questions, add them now into the little questions and topic area, and I will try to answer them. So let's see, we're at 40 minutes now. I mean, I think an hour would probably be a good place to cap it. But add a bunch, keep adding, questions and stuff, and I will answer them, and I'll get through most of these other questions here if it makes sense too. Okay, another poll coming up. Boom. That one's got a lot of options. Okay. Let's go back to questions and topics here. Ooh, good question from Mark. Mark asks, what are your opinions on freemium versus complete paid products? Does it matter what you are selling, or do you always advise to sell from day one of providing value? This is a complicated question with a complicated answer. So, my general opinion is that way too many things are freemium. And I think that it's a problem because most people give away the farm on that freemium plan, like on the free plan as part of their freemium business model. So they end up they can't make money off of it because they have given people all that they want on a free plan. And not enough reason to upgrade. So to me, where freemium comes in is that free plan is more of a free trial. It may be an endless, there might not be a time limit on that as far as a trial goes, but the entire purpose of that needs to be to push people to those paying plans, and not in some sleazy used car salesman kind of mentality, but you want to push them to a place that they get more value. Especially, and I'm only talking B2B here. I'm not talking in the consumer space. That's not my space at all. I don't want it to be. So we're talking B2B here. So I think most people, to that follow-up question, does it matter what you are selling? I do think it matters what you're selling, and again, but that's more in the B2B versus B2C. So it's an entirely different ballgame in B2C. But do I advise selling from the day one of providing value? In general, I think that real businesses are happy to pay for real solutions. Now, the way that you prove that value to them can be in a lot of different formats. That may be a free plan. That may be a free trial with or without a credit card, or that may be they sign up for a demo and you walk them through it. But the point is you need to show them the value, and as soon as they're getting real tangible value, they'll pay for it. Again, real businesses. Now, it's an entirely different conversation about like early stage startups that don't have any money or are super price sensitive and think that like they're the guys who will spend 2 months building an internal analytics product so they can save $29 a month. Those people, don't even worry about them. Ignore them. They're not your customer because they're not going to give you any money, even if like you have a free plan and a paying plan. They're just never going to become a paying customer because they don't value their time. So, but I think like it's not so much like, I think there are a lot more creative ways to provide proof of value than just giving away a free plan. Yeah, that's my answer there. Let's see. Steve Johnson asks, what is your advice for a company looking to expand from a single developer? Hire someone else. Hire another developer. Then you will have 2 developers and you won't have this question anymore. I'm just kidding. So how do you, maybe from a hiring standpoint, I mean, the biggest thing is, so I was the single developer early on, and then the first developer we hired, Ben, came on board about this time last year, and he came on board because I was about to burn the place down because I was so over my head. So at that point, like that's from a timing perspective, that was the right time to hire him because I didn't know what I was doing, and I needed somebody who was much more experienced with building larger scale things. That like don't hire too early, but hire someone who's much more experienced, I would say, who kind of brings up the entire level of the developer. The single developer, and then soon to be like a development team, for instance. Alex Markov asks, how do you know when you should hire a support person full-time instead of outsourcing or handling it yourself? Great question, Alex. And hello, Kagan. Kagan's in the comments over there. He's our full-time support guy. So how did I know when to hire Kagan to handle full-time? So for me, it was kind of when I was spending my entire day doing support. So, and it had like doing a certain level of support is useful for just finding out what is or isn't working, and getting like good customer feedback and being involved and making yourself sort of, I don't know, the face of the company, or just making yourself available, I think is really great early on as a founder. But there comes a point when, if I'm spending, 3 to 5 hours a day just answering support requests, I'm over that's a bad use of my time as the founder, right? So that was, for me, it was like the point. And it was like the speed at which I would respond to things was getting awful. I mean, sometimes it took days. Kagan will respond to stuff sometimes in minutes, right? And that is obviously a much better experience for customers than me taking 2 days to give them some less than stellar response. So that was the timing for me. And yeah, that answers your question, I think. All right. Oleg asks, how do you improve churn for Baremetrics? So I talked about this a little bit earlier. How did we improve? I mean, so we've improved churn, user and revenue churn. I think by just providing a better product is the big thing. And then better support overall. So it's a better experience. And both of those are like funneling people towards to getting more value out of the product. So if they get more value, they're less likely to churn. So the more they understand how to use Baremetrics, the better experience they have when they have a problem. So like a customer support side of things, the less likely they are to churn. The more powerful the product is, and that doesn't necessarily mean more complex or more features, but the more sort of value they get because of what they can do with the product, again, the lower the churn will be. Right, let's see here. I'll answer Javier's tech question because lots of people have voted it up here. A bunch of geeks. All right. Why choose D3.js over other options like highcharts.js, for instance? So at this point, I don't know. I haven't touched the front end code in a long time. So initially, what did I pick initially? There was some kind of like chart.js or something, I think is what I first used when I would just built the initial version myself. And that was just because it was easy for me to get up and running. And then Tyler, our front end developer, we recently, I mean, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, maybe redid made the charts a lot more powerful, can do a lot more with them. And D3 was, I think, the most flexible for us. So but that was his decision to make, whatever worked best for him. Yeah, let's see here. Another geeky tech questions. If you guys want other answers to things that are not geeky, add them to the question area, and I will answer them. So Javier asks, why is the marketing site in PHP in the app and Rails? Is it because of better performance or speed? No, there's no particular reasons. The front end, the marketing site, is just a content site. So we needed basically like a CMS kind of thing, and the CMS that we use happens to be in PHP. So it has nothing to do with like a language or a performance or speed thing. It's purely we needed to get some sort of easy-ish to use content management system in place, and it happened to be in PHP. So. Is that? I think that says lawn. For some reason, the font looks weird. Lon asks, he says, I'm disabled and on a fixed income. I want to start up a virtual assistance business. How can I do that with very limited funds? So I don't know that you need any funds, really. So Baremetrics, I mean, for all intents and purposes, was started on a $0 budget. It didn't cost anything, really, to get up and running. It was just code. And you could get up and running on Heroku for free. I mean, I think that first version probably cost $10 a month or something on Heroku initially. So the deal comes down to, again, like you need to have a source of income as soon as possible from the product. Now, can you code? Then you're going to be a lot further off than somebody who can't code and who has to go out and find somebody to code for them, right? So if you're not able to build the thing all by yourself, then you're going to have to figure out some sort of way to get income that maybe doesn't revolve around the software portion of it. Maybe there's like this consulting element of it where you're teaching somebody something and selling that sort of as a service instead of using the software part, and maybe that gets you more income to be able to pay somebody else. Or you learn to code. I mean, there's like 1,000 different places to learn to code, and that will pay off. That was, the best decision from a career standpoint that I ever made was teaching myself to code, 15 or 20 years ago. So do that. And to the comment, and Alex in the comments asks, which CMS? So it's called Statamic. And it works for, I actually think we'll probably switch to WordPress in the next couple months. We're redoing our marketing site in the near future, and Statamic's a little too, I don't like WordPress, but I think it's a little more flexible for having more people get in there and add stuff via its admin area. Let's see, we've answered that. We're getting low on the questions here, people. Add them if you got them. Steve asks, for SaaS, what's your take on outbound versus inbound? I'm assuming sales. What has Baremetrics' experience been with both? So, I'm assuming outbound sales versus inbound sales. So, for us, we don't do any sales on the outbound side of things. If a large enterprise customer shows up, which happens, then I will personally handle that. We don't have a sales team in place yet. So I think we will have an outbound sales team in place. We'll hopefully get that up and running sometime in the next year. I'm not opposed to it. I actually think it can be really valuable. We're just not at that stage yet where it makes a ton of sense. Chris, with the long name about Tweet Machine, asks, man, that's a tough word to say. Asks. Feels like there's an extra syllable in there. Do you have anybody helping you with writing the marketing material, or do you do it all or mostly yourself? I do it all myself. So, and when we say marketing material, so there's like salesy marketing stuff, like the marketing site, and I write all that too, but we don't do a ton of writing in the salesy kind of way. We do a ton of content marketing, which I feel dirty saying, but it's, content marketing is effectively what it is. So the blog, so baremetrics.com/blog, I do all the writing on that. Chris says the copy. So the copy, man, you've messed me up now. The copy, I'm gonna keep answering my question, then I'm gonna come back to the copy. So I do all the writing on the blog, and the reason that works really well is because the whole blog is revolved around my experience, or the experiences I'm having building the company. And so that tends to relate really well to other founders, which works out great because founders, entrepreneurs in general, are our market. Now, to your question about the copy. So no, I don't have anybody helping me right now. There's a few like copy editors I've worked with over the years that I think would be like, I understand the value that they provide. But I also think that I've written enough copy myself over the years to like feel like I can probably hold my own on writing what we need to write. And a lot of it revolves around A/B testing stuff. So coming up with a dozen different ways to say things and then A/B testing what sets of copy work best for that. So, Tom asks, how many developers does Baremetrics have today? We have 2 back-end developers, Ben and Eric, and a front-end developer, Tyler. And that's it. I early on was the sole developer, front end, back end. Then I now try to not touch code as much as possible, just because I'm rusty now that I haven't touched it as much. But we're hiring a third back end engineer. I would hire 1,000 if I could, because we have so much in the pipeline. But money. What software do you use to mix all the podcast or the audio blog portion and any video stuff as well? Good question. So we have a blog, which is basically an audio version of the... we have Founder's Journey is a podcast, which is basically an audio version of the blog, because some people like to listen instead of read words, which I understand. So that Founder's Journey, you can find it on iTunes, or most of the blog posts actually have the audio embedded at the top. So what software do I use to mix that? So my flow here is kind of simple. I record it on my Mac. I use something called, what's it called? It's called Sound Studio. Just a really basic, record some audio thing. Saves that. Then I send it to a tool called Auphonic. It's like AUPHONIC.com. So Auphonic takes kind of normalizes all the audio, automatically takes out some hum and does noise reduction. That's runs the thing, run through that, spits out an MP3. I drop the MP3 into GarageBand, where I've got a preset intro and outro, and just adjust that as needed, and then I upload it to Simplecast, which is where it distributes it to all the relevant podcasting places. So that's that. Okay, I think that's all, unless somebody wants to throw in one last question here, and then we can wrap it up. I'll give you 4 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, because there's a delay. Ooh, there's another question. Okay. I'm going to answer this one. So we're going to make this will be the last question, or last answer to this last question. So, I have no clue how to pronounce your name. Good grief, I'm sorry. This guy with the green background for his avatar. So he says, actually, your last name is Virgil. I'm going to call you Virgil. Virgil. He says, I suck at blogging. Can I grow a SaaS without content marketing, or do I need to find a blogger that knows about SaaS growth, etc.? You can absolutely grow without a content marketer. Baremetrics didn't even have a blog of any sort until 4 months after I started, and then I didn't actually start posting useful things until maybe 5 or 6 months after. So, no, you don't. And I got to like $4,000 or $5,000 a month in recurring revenue with no sort of like content thing in place. So absolutely, yeah, you can. Now, does it help? It's been a key part of our growth, having the content marketing side of things. So sure, if you can do it, do it. Or saying that you suck at blogging isn't really. That's kind of a bad. That's a bad deal, right? That's an excuse, right? Like anybody can be good at it. You just have to practice a lot. I've done a ton of writing over the past however many years, so I've gotten good at it, right? So just practice. The first however many posts, maybe 10 or 20 posts might be lame. That's fine, but you got to start somewhere. Saying you can't do it, it's a cop out, bro. So that's it. Okay, thanks for tuning in this week. I don't know how often I'll do this or if I'll do it again. It was tough I have had a bad day with tech stuff. My internet connection hates me. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll do this once a month or something. I don't know. We'll see what the response is like. So check out the comments here. So Kagan, you'll see there, he says, hey folks, if you don't have Baremetrics stickers, yeah, he's offering up free Baremetrics stickers because he's a good guy. So shoot us an email, hello@baremetrics.com. If you want some stickers, we'll send you some. Yeah, I think that's all I've got. There's nothing else here. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Like that, there's, I don't know how many people actually, it looks like over the course of the stream, like 100 people tuned in. Thank you. That means a lot to me, and hopefully it was useful to you. So, I'll have the recording of this up one day. So, follow us at Baremetrics on Twitter, and you can get it then. All right. Thanks, folks.